phone and looking at old BTS albums. That is a literal aesthetic. I need to make that aesthetic. What better way to make an aesthetic than put it on a hoodie? So I guess this is basically a DIY for making a BTS hoodie. I got a black hoodie and then I needed paint. Now, I had acrylic paint. Fabric paint is the preferable method because acrylic paint is like really thick, and so like it's gonna be a hassle putting that on cloth. But you know what? That's fine. I'm using the Apple Barrel acrylic paint. I took white so that I could paint the logo, and then the other colors are for the balloon, but if you don't want to paint the balloon, then I don't know, paint whatever you want. So I started off by painting the hot air balloon. What I did is I laid out my black hoodie, and I'm gonna paint this balloon on the back side of the hoodie. Then what I did is I took some magazines and slipped them underneath the hoodie, so in between the back and the front. That way, when I start painting, any of like the water or like paint that'll leak through will get on the magazine and not like get to the other side and like make those hoodies stick together and make it like this big messy like glob of paint or something. So yeah, I put a few magazines through. This also helps give you a hard surface to work on. Then I took a white colored pencil and I started drawing out the design. So that way I have at least something to work off of when I paint it horrendously. Then began the painting process. Now, since I am using acrylic paint and not fabric paint, I did a 3-step process so that it painted on smoothly, or as smooth as I could get it to be. So the first coat, I call it the soft coat, which is basically a really watered down coat of paint. So I took a bowl, put some water in it, put some paint in it, and added a soft coat. This coat won't really show when it dries up, but what it does is it stiffens the fabric. So when you add on the next coat of paint, it kind of paints on smoothly. So then I just continued painting like those little boxes in the hot air balloon, and it was kind of fun, but it was kind of also tedious because it took time, and like when the paint dried up it wouldn't really look like much, and then I'd have to paint another coat, then I'd have to paint another coat, and then another coat, and then yeah. So yeah, it turned out pretty good, I think. And once it all dried up, it took at least maybe 2 hours to dry up, I flipped it over and I began on the main front part where I put the logo, the big, grand logo. How the BTS logo looks is it's basically 2 trapezoids standing side by side, except they're flipped. They're vertical trapezoids. So yeah, vertical trapezoids together. So I made sure the measurements were right, and then I just sketched out like the name underneath. And then once I had the sketch, I began like painting the first box in like white. And then I added some blue, and I realized it didn't really look nice. Then what I did is I realized if I want it to look nice and crisp, then I'm probably gonna need something to help guide my paint. So I took some tape. Now blue tape, the blue masking tape that you can put on your wall, is probably the best bet, but I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. So yeah, we're gonna stick with regular tape. So I took some regular masking tape and I basically lined it up along the lines so that when I paint, it'll just get on the tape and it won't get outside of that barrier I created. And then I just began painting, and I had to paint on a lot of coats, but in the end it was worth it. It took a whole night to dry up, but it was worth it because it looked nice and fresh. And my favorite part, peeling off the tape. I love doing that because when you do it, like, it looks nice and crisp. I was like, wow, it actually looks good. And then I did the other box. Then it was complete. And it actually turned out to look pretty good for acrylic paint because I had to paint on a lot of coats of that acrylic paint. It was a tedious process, but I liked it, I enjoyed doing it, and it was simple. And of course I needed my trusty Sharpie over here because there were a lot of little flaws that I had to cover it up with. And this is how the hoodie looks. This side is still drying. Yeah, I'm a little impatient. And oh yeah, I also like did the arm here. I just did one arm because then I got lazy. But yeah, this is the back side, and the hot air balloon, I feel like it could need some fixing. It needs a lot of fixing. But you know, for a first timer, it turned out kind of good, kind of good. That was pretty much it. I don't know how to end these. Goodbye.